Battlefield 6's beta has now just all but showcased everything to expect with the game come launch. Obviously, things like total weaponry, how the other maps play, what progression system we have, and additional things will be revealed closer to launch, but there's still plenty that we do know. How the class system seemingly will be handled unless they pick one lane or the other with open and closed weapons, how gunplay will feel, how matchmaking will work, among many other things. However, one of the elephants in the room with Battlefield 6 comes down to the maps in our field of play. While I've personally enjoyed my time in the beta, the communal mention of the sizing of the maps is absolutely a valid point of discussion, with many pointing to the smaller by comparison nature as something that may hinder the experience if the full game follows suit. But recently, DICE and the Battlefield team actually attempted to tackle this dilemma head on. Today we're running down their explanation and points towards the future and let you know what you need to surrounding the map designs coming to the full game of Battlefield 6. So drop your thoughts, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all things Battlefield 6. I'd love to have you in the community as we gear up for launch in just a little bit of time. So I don't think that there's any real debate to say the maps we have in Battlefield 6's multiplayer beta are relatively small compared to prior Battlefield maps, and certainly expectations throughout the community. Most are heavily favoring infantry with tanks available, but jets and helicopters only available on one of the four, with Empire State actually being just infantry only. These dubbed meat grinder maps are pushing a lot more gunplay rather than, say, vehicle play, which may not be as enjoyable for some players, especially vehicle mains. This has sprouted a lot of discussion and concern for the future of maps in Battlefield 6. Now, we can look at the launch offering for sure. We know what launch maps there will be, those have already been revealed. We've already seen, in a playable state, Liberation Peak, Empire State, Iberian Offensive, and Siege of Cairo within this beta. But in addition to those, we'll have 4 additional new maps of New Quebec City, Manhattan Bridge, Murik Valley, and Saints Quarters, as well as the returning Operation Firestorm from Battlefield 3 and from Battlefield 4's Second Assault DLC. Obviously, minus Firestorm, we don't know the sizing of the others because we haven't had a chance to play on these. But do we know what they'll be tailored to? Well, actually, yeah. DICE design director Sashank Ushal commented on the maps at launch in a recent interview with VGC, saying, "We want to make a map that suits every type of player. They could be infantry players, so we want to make sure we have good infantry maps like Empire State and Saints Quarters. Maybe a player who likes tanks, vehicles. Okay, let's make a map that's good for infantry and tanks, Siege of Cairo and Iberian Offensive. You know what? I like helicopters. Let's make a map for that. New Quebec City and Manhattan Bridge. And then the jets, which I'm really bad at, but there are players who are really good at jets. I don't know how they do it, but they're there. So let's make a map that caters to them as well. Operation Firestorm, Murik Valley, and Liberation Peak. The team isn't interested in scale for the sake of it. Scale is not everything, right? Well, just because you have X kilometers doesn't mean it's going to be a good map, because then if you make a really big map, you're going to fill it up with stuff. Then it becomes more of an open world, and then you start compromising on a bunch of other things. So, not interested in scale for the sake of scale. I can understand that logic. I'm not necessarily sure if everyone will be happy with it, given the large maps are usually what's associated with Battlefield when you think of their map design alongside the destruction, but I can also understand that from a design perspective. You don't want to create this running simulator and open world that takes too long to play the objective, get in the action, or somewhere in between that. This then appears to take our 9 maps and attempts to kind of split them out evenly across whatever type of player you are. Of infantry and different types of vehicles, Empire State and Saints Quarters are your infantry only, Siege of Cairo and Iberian Offensive for your tank players, New Quebec City and Manhattan Bridge for your helicopter players, and then Firestorm for the all-out combat that you see with everything coming together into one large, not sandbox per se, but larger map, where you have that all-out warfare of infantry, tanks, helicopters, jets, you name it. But at the same time, while that offers up a bit of perspective, David Serland, lead producer at DICE, has also added to the discussion of map sizing by saying speed is a factor of map size. We picked these maps in the beta to make sure that we hit the full octane version of Battlefield on the head, and made everyone see that we can handle that too. Large maps exist, and the tempo scales accordingly. You'll be able to see that soon enough. So by my interpretation, this seems like these maps were methodically chosen to showcase in this beta. Whether you or I agree with these and the choices that were made to bring them here, that's not necessarily in question, but rather that the team consciously chose these ones for whatever reason, whether that be to showcase the chaos, to grab a wider appeal to first-time viewers and players, to stress test networking and connection, to gather more and more data points surrounding things like weapon balancing, trying to force more combat and thus more data to be recorded. Who knows? But they were chosen for a reason. Scaling accordingly can also go a number of different ways, but the more that I think about it, the more I kind of consider it's going to be either all-out chaos and warfare like we have now on smaller maps but on a bigger scale, or we see it in a way of keeping the old school feel and a little bit of a balance, scaling with the larger battles in the Battlefield franchise. It's already been confirmed that we won't see things like 128 player lobbies in Battlefield 6, so that scaling giving us these bigger and bigger maps for those final 3 that we've yet to see, or I guess final 2 because we have seen Firestorm before, but those other maps that will be larger, they're not going to be filled out with 128 players. So we will still see that scale go accordingly, but not like an overwhelming degree where you have these small map meat grinders, but on a bigger scale at that point. But talking about scale and coming back to that scale for the sake of scale mentioned, this kind of compounds, I think, to where I'm in an optimistic way, thinking the scale is complementary to that gameplay experience, where you're going to have that large scale action, but also not feeling too cramped or like you're in a running simulator. So finding that sort of fine line between the two that makes a good Battlefield map. We have a couple of chances at how that works out, but we'll just have to wait and see. But speaking of talking about sizing, still, how big are these other maps? Because yeah, we've had them described, but we haven't actually seen them. Well, according to 1BF, the Telegram leaking group, who alongside Temporal have been kind of the premier leaking forces in Battlefield 6's lead up to where we are right now, they claim to have found the sizing and map layouts of a few additional maps not in the beta. One map being Myrick Valley from the launch offering, and another being Eastwood, a location that is on the upcoming Battle Royale map and a rumored live service map in season coming to multiplayer. With the Siege of Cairo as a reference point, so kind of the middle of the road with the beta offering, not as small as Empire State, not as big as Liberation Peak, it seems like we'll have certainly some maps that are bigger both at launch and post-launch. Eastwood being about twice the size of it, perhaps maybe a little over twice the size in terms of area, and then Myrick Valley is listed as approximately 0.5998 kilometers squared, which is about the same size as, just slightly smaller than Hamada from Battlefield 5, and then about the same size as Caspian Border as well. So sizing and scale will definitely be there for these maps, historically speaking, compared to what we've had in Battlefield. But that again is the launch offering here and what will then end up being just a couple of these at launch. So I think the bigger question when we talk about the sort of longevity of these maps for larger experiences and what a lot of people may want to see out of the classic Battlefield experience comes down to the live service stuff. Like, obviously, at this point, we are not going to change or get additional maps coming at launch. That's just something that, whether we like it or not, we're going to have to deal with it. That is the launch. If you are happy with these maps, awesome. If you want more big maps, unfortunately, you're only going to have those 3 coming at launch. But what the future holds and how many future maps there are, that's the big question. As we just mentioned, Eastwood is going to be one of those maps, apparently, that is an in-season map. So that's one that will be larger than what we see in the beta already, but it's not also going to be the biggest scale map that we have at the moment. So whether or not that ends up granting players the ability to play in tanks, in helicopters, in jets, all 3 of those, or some sort of combination of them, we don't quite know yet. And we have no insight into how the post-launch of Battlefield 6 will even go to begin with. So there's just a lot of question marks here leading up until launch and beyond. But for the time being, it seems like DICE are trying to reassure us that, hey, what we see right now is not going to be the end of the world. It's not something that we have to write this off entirely, because there are those experiences still coming. Now, again, what reasoning there is for not having some of those in the beta here and only having one of those larger maps on offer, we don't quite know, but that seems like the reality of the situation. So what do you think of this here? Are you looking forward to trying out Firestorm and Myrick Valley in the larger launch offering? Are you happy or disappointed with the map sizing in Battlefield 6's multiplayer beta? Whatever the case, let me know. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. Of course, if you aren't new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Battlefield 6. We've got a lot upcoming. Of course, we are going to end up covering a little bit of stuff with Black Ops 7 as well this week as more reveals are coming out. But I'm very excited to be covering both of these and even more. Arc Raiders has my attention as well this year for sure. So a big next couple of months upcoming. I'd love to have you in the community if you'd like to join us on that road for any of it. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.